Greetings, viewers. EricTheCarGuy here with another live show where I answer your automotive questions. Well, actually, this is another AMA, and sometimes butcher your names. I'm kind of famous for that. Anyway, if you are watching this on YouTube live right now, thank you, first of all. Secondly, if you need to post a question or you wish to post a question, there's a link in the description to the forum thread, which is where I will be taking these questions from. Once the show concludes, I will take this video and post it to that thread so that anyone who asked questions can easily access the video. I'll also put links in the description to other pertinent information, things that come up during the course of the show, if I can possibly do that. Anyway, first of all, Happy New Year. Happy 2017. Happy 2017 to all of you out in Cyberland. It's been a while since I've done one of these shows. In fact, it was back in November that I did the last one, and I took some time off in December. Was very happy for that, and now I'm ready to get back to it. In fact, today I was working in the shop all day, and now I've got the Fairmont on the lift, and we're going to start tearing into that because I really want to get this thing going this year. I think it would be nice to have it on the road and thumping along, as they say. But anyway, enough about me. Let's get to those questions. As I said, those are over on my website. There's a link in the description. Also, I cannot see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I cannot see the comments being posted there while I'm doing the live show, so I won't be answering those questions. But there is always EricTheCarGuy.com, 24/7, 365. I've got an FAQ page that answers a majority of the questions that I get asked. If you can't find anything there, you can post your question over to my forum, and we will work to resolve that for you. So that is always available. Also linked in the description. I'll also link any of those articles that may be useful to you, that I often find to help people. I spend a whole lot of time putting that stuff together to try and answer the most commonly asked questions that I get. Anyway, we will start off with the bidgage. And once again, I don't know what it is. I just have an issue with names. But hi, Eric. Quick update on a question I asked before, and then a quick question for real. I asked you about my weird intermittent vibration issue while applying the brakes that I had sort of partially solved with lubricating the sliding pins on the front calipers. There's been some development since, and I can say that with 60% certainty that what was still causing the issue that there was still an issue at the rear, probably a faulty self-adjusting mechanism on one or both of the rear calipers. Remanufactured set, it's on its way, so all my fingers are crossed. Well, I wish you luck with that. As far as a self-adjuster, really the only way that can cause a vibration, and I've never seen something like that cause an intermittent vibration, is if the adjuster is hanging up, causing the wheel to, or the brake to stay partially applied and overheating the rotor. That's the only way I can see that happening. And a lot of times if you just raise the rear wheels, no parking brake engaged or anything, and try to rotate them, if there's significant resistance, especially if it's on one wheel and not the other, and that's a pretty good indication that there may be a problem with these slide pins, is the first thing I would check. Because similar to the front brakes, in fact, more common on the rear brakes, rear disc brakes, slide pins tend to seize up. They require periodic maintenance. In fact, I've done a video on this. Anyway, that being the case, you possibly have a problem back there. Replacing the calipers obviously would eliminate all possibilities, or at least I hope it would. Okay, now for your actual question, I'm going to get a new tune for my Saab 9000 Aero, which will probably involve a higher boost pressure. I have all the hardware to support it, fuel delivery, exhaust, etc., but I'll probably be using the stock intercooler for now because I'm cheap. Should I worry about it blowing up catastrophically, or is there just going to be a limit to my potential peak power output, which I can live with for a while? Thanks for all your great work. Best of luck with the Fairmont 2. Looking awesome so far. Thank you. As far as the stock intercooler, I mean, really, if you're upgrading for efficiency to try to keep the charge cooler. The idea is as you compress air, either with a supercharger or turbocharger, that compressed air heats up, and as a result it is not as dense, and therefore the engine cannot produce as much power from it. So sticking with your stock intercooler, like I said, it's really just air passing through there. So unless you're going like stupid crazy with boost pressure, I would think it would be able to hold up okay. Like I said, it's a matter of efficiency, I think, as far as the intercooler goes. So I don't know how much boost you're adding. I don't. There's so many things I don't know to really intelligently answer your question. So therefore, I'm going to say I'm going to go by the people that made your kit. In fact, if you want to ask this question, you should ask the people that made your kit. They should be able to tell you what should work and what shouldn't. They probably spend a lot of time and effort trying to figure those things out. They want happy customers, not blown up engines. So that's who I would reach out to. Here's a good one. Delta V, Happy New Year, and I hope all your hopes and dreams come true this year. Same to you. Do you know what might cause extreme buildup of ash deposit on spark plug number 4 on inline 4? No coolant is being consumed, minimal oil consumption. I'm using premium gas, and the other plugs have essentially no ash. Well, I'm going to try to make this so we can share this information with the class. I don't know if you can see that spark plug there, but if you can see there's quite a bit of white crusty buildup on the electrode. And basically what that means is it's burning oil. It's a very, very common thing. If it was coolant doesn't do that. Coolant cleans everything. Coolant will clean the inside of your engine, and it will look absolutely nice and wonderful. Whereas oil will build up as a deposit like that. So it has nothing to do with your fuel or anything like that. You're burning oil. And the hope is always that it's valve seals. In my experience, it's rarely just valve seals. If you have leaking valve seals, it's quite possible that you have leaking down in the bottom end of the engine as well. I would do a compression test just to start with, but the real tell will be a leak down test. I've done videos on both of these things, but a leak down test will tell you specifically where the compression loss is happening and possibly where the oil is coming in. Another thing, I'm not sure what vehicle you're running here because you didn't necessarily mention a brand or any of that kind of stuff, but Toyotas, particularly of the late 90s versions that I'm thinking of, those had an issue with the oil control rings getting gummed up, and therefore the oil control rings were not able to control oil like they should, and the oil was getting past those rings and into the combustion chamber. So that's another possibility. So it may not necessarily be due to a compression loss or worn cylinders. It could be the cause. The cause could be a problem with oil control rings, depending upon what type of vehicle you have. But I can say with certainty that what you're looking at there is an engine that's consuming oil. So that's where I'd be looking on that. And, the next question is often, okay, well, if the engine is worn out, do I rebuild or replace it? I did a video about this very thing. I do not recommend rebuilding engines, especially not for everyday daily driver kind of things. Something like my Fairmont that's a project car, or some rare kind of engine that's impossible to find in salvage, yes, then rebuilding is the way to go. But for daily drivers, things that you're using to get from point A to point B, I think it's a complete and utter waste of time and money to go ahead and rebuild the engine. Because if you watch the engine series that I did on this very engine that's behind me, it's very involved if you want to do it right. If you're thinking that you're just going to buy a bunch of new parts and slap them together, it's often not going to work out. And like I say, it usually ends up being a colossal waste of time and money. So as far as rebuilding engines goes, I don't recommend it, not for drivers. I would say carpart.com. It's car dash, like just a regular dash, not underscore, dash, carpart.com is usually a pretty good way to find salvage and also used engines that maybe salvage and also remanufactured engines, I meant to say, that are out in the world, and that's what I would recommend. Let's see, we've got Precat. Wow, these names are good. Thank you. My mechanic changed the timing belt on my O2 Accord 4-cylinder with 200,000 miles. He used an Aisin kit, which is known to be of high quality. I would agree with that. Since then, I hear a whining noise coming from behind the timing cover when the car is warmed up. I took the serpentine belts, I took off the serpentine belts to narrow down the issue, and the noise is still there. It sounds almost like a swarm of bees. I read in Hondas, this is a classic sign the timing belt or balancer belt is too tight. I went back to the mechanic and he said it's impossible to over-tighten the belts since the tensioners are automatic. He said the new belts will break in soon enough and the noise will go away. This doesn't sound right because the timing belts don't need a break-in period like that. What are your thoughts? Car drives fine otherwise, but I don't want to damage anything. You demand. Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you for that comment. I agree with you. Your mechanic's wrong. The timing belt's too tight. I know this because I've done thousands of timing belts on that engine, and I can tell you for certain that it is quite possible, despite the quote-unquote automatic tensioner, to over-tighten the belt. In fact, I often see it because people often use a pry bar on the tensioner to try to get as much tension on it as possible because they're worried about it being too loose. I have a quote-unquote patented method that I use. I put my hand on the camshaft and I rotate the crankshaft to try to create resistance on the camshaft so that it can create enough tension on the tensioner, and then I tighten it all down and away you go. The other possibility is the bearing in one of the tensioners might be bad, but based on your description and the fact that it happened after a timing belt replacement, I can almost guarantee you that that timing belt is too tight. However, it's not really that difficult to change the tension, to loosen it up. And what I would recommend you do, there's a 14 millimeter bolt that sticks through the bottom of the, sticks out through the lower timing belt cover. That is the tensioning bolt for the tensioner. If you remove the serpentine belt, you'll have easier access. If the belt's there, it's very difficult to access because it's in the way. I have a nice long 14 millimeter wrench that I use for this very purpose. And that's what you'll need. I use this because it's long and it's straight. It's zero offset is what this is called. And I find that to be the most effective way to get down there. What I would do is I would just loosen the bolt and tighten it back up. If it's too tight, that spring that's on there that is supposed to set the tension automatically should reset the belt to a place where it's in a better position. And if you really want to do this quote unquote right, what I would recommend that you do is, and it's going to be really hard to tell, but I would try to put it at top dead center as if you were timing the engine. And the reason I say it's hard to tell is because really what you need to do is remove the valve cover. And with that, you'll be able to see the position of the camshaft, and you'll know for sure that you're on number one cylinder on the compression stroke. But yes, I do agree that your timing belt is likely too tight, and I think loosening that bolt and then just tightening it back up should alleviate the problem or should make it better. Let's put it this way, if it does get better, you know for darn sure that that's what the problem is. Like I said, there's a spring on there that's putting tension on it, and I already mentioned the method that I use to try to create just a little bit more tension on that, but not too much tension, because too much tension will cause a noise. Anyway, good luck with that. We have Fred's My Mythos, Fred Smith, and it's all smashed together. I know there's Fred Smith. Anyway, I've seen you on the forum before. Thanks for hanging out. It has a 1999 Chevy Lumina with a 3.1 liter engine. The engine has 230,000 miles on it and will need to be replaced or rebuilt in the near future because of excessive coolant loss. I've researched both options of replacing the engine and rebuilding the engine, and in this case, it would be better to rebuild the engine. My question is about the engine block reconditioning. With 230,000 miles, most likely the engine cylinders will need to be bored over. If an engine block is bored over, will it produce additional cubic inches? How would this affect the computer control system in the car when the engine is reinstalled? Would the computer in the car compensate for the additional cubic inches in the engine, or would this create problems with the computer's control system? Or would it be better to find a used engine block in good condition that has the original cylinder bore size? Thanks for your help. I just covered this literally 2 questions ago. I do not recommend that you rebuild that engine. I recommend that you find a remanufactured engine block, something like that, or a remanufactured engine. Long block would be best. That way you just swap over all your old parts from your old engine over to the new engine. I do not recommend that you rebuild that engine. I strongly disagree with that approach for that vehicle, especially with those miles. I mean, consider, I get it. You love the vehicle, and you know it's not like a Ford Fairmont is a highly sought after vehicle either. So I get it. I get being in love with your car, but I mean it's a 1999 Lumina with 230,000 miles on it, and you're about to rebuild or replace the engine. What's the rest of the car like? I mean, is the transmission worn out? How's the suspension? I mean, how is the car overall? Is it worn out? Is it rusted out? Are you wasting your time and your money? Think about it. Because if you are, you'd be better off just investing in a different vehicle. Maybe you could just do a lateral move into something that's in a little bit better shape. Not really sure what your situation is, but Look at it practically. I mean, seriously, look at it practically and ask yourself, am I dreaming? Should I really be doing this or not? But if you're insisting on keeping the car and you've checked all the boxes for the rest of the things I said, the rest of the car's in decent shape, then I recommend that you get a remanufactured engine. Rebuilding it, I think you're gonna end up spending way more money, and the result you get, I don't think would be nearly as good as if you just drop the dime on a replacement engine. Whatever you decide, I wish you good luck. Moving on to the Avenger. Yeah, the underscore helps. Hey Eric, sorry about the novel last show. What turned out to be the fix was adding dielectric grease to the O2 sensor plug over 1,000 miles later with no problems. That's an interesting fix. I wonder if it was just a pin connection issue. My question is, what is the weirdest thing you've ever encountered working on cars, such as an odd solution or questionable DIY work? Stay dirty. That's a tough one, and nothing's like really coming to mind at the moment. I mean, I've run into a lot of weird things. And animals in strange places, dead animals, live animals. Yeah, there was the one thing I mentioned in one of my videos where I was looking under the hood of a car and looked down and saw this basically nest of leaves and stuff, and went to remove it off the top of the transmission, and it was a nest of baby squirrels. And that was a little strange. And I called one of my fellow mechanics over to look at it, and you know, he looked really close. He got down there, and then something started moving, and he literally squealed like a little girl and ran away. So from then on, we obviously kid him about being afraid of baby squirrels, but yeah, that was one that comes to mind. There's been a lot. I mean, you run into a lot of weird things in this business. I will say that. If something comes to mind later in the show, I'll bring it up, but right now I don't want to hold things up. A lot of people have asked questions I'd like to get to if it's possible. D. Tidman, how's that? Has a 2003 Nissan Frontier 2.4 liter with a 5-speed manual and 140,000 miles on the clock. It has the original clutch, and for some reason there is no inspection port or hole, so it seems the only way to inspect the clutch is to pull the transmission. Is there another way to determine clutch wear? I'm not having any issues right now, but I would like to know where I am so I'm not surprised with a clutch issue. For AMA, what part of your time in art school as an artist helped you the most as a technician? Let's do your automotive question first as far as clutch. I mean, that's true with any clutch pretty much. I mean, very few have any kind of inspection or any way of determining clutch wear until you actually remove it. So that's not uncommon at all. If you're not experiencing any problems, pat yourself on the back because you know how to drive a manual shift. As far as when they wear out, they'll start to slip in higher gears before they start to slip in lower gears. I've actually done a video about this. The way to test for it is to put it in like second gear and rev the engine up and let the clutch out and see if you're slipping. And if you're slipping at that point, and like I say, in higher gears, there's sometimes even third gear. If you're doing that, then it's likely your clutch is worn out. So it'll give you some warning before it goes for the most part, unless there's a quote-unquote catastrophic failure. I have seen springs fall out of pressure plates or out of clutch discs and get wedged between the clutch disc and the pressure plate, causing problems. That's quite common on Hondas. You know, there's other things that can happen. Friction material I've seen fall off, and you know, suddenly, which can cause a problem. But no, I would not concern myself with it until it became a problem. Once again, you'll notice it in higher gears. So in other words, you'll be driving on the highway, maybe in fifth gear or whatever, and you'll mash the pedal down, and you might see the engine RPM start to rev up, but you're not necessarily going faster. That's an indication the clutch is starting to wear. Once again, higher gears is where you'll start to notice it the most. You won't necessarily notice it in the lower gears right off, but it'll give you some warning, so don't worry about it. As far as what my time in art school did to help me as a mechanic, I could say just general observation. I mean, if you're doing art, so to speak, when you start out or whatever, I did a lot of drawing, a lot of things like that, a lot of drawing from still life. So you look at things very closely. In fact, there's a line from Shakespeare: "He looked upon her face as if he would draw it," and that's observation, and you're forced to do so when you're doing artistic things. You're really hyper focused on details and that type of thing. when you get to be a mechanic, a lot of what you're doing to diagnose things is observation. So having good observation skills, I think, is invaluable if you're a technician. So yeah, I would say that's what helped. It was an easy crossover for me in that sense. But also, I went to school for a while for industrial design and special effects makeup, and in that, I learned how to make things. And I've always had sort of a mechanical mind. You know, as a kid, I was taking apart my toys and things as a kid, but learning how to make things also developed my thinking, my critical thinking skills, as far as, you know, when you make something and you bring something into the world that didn't exist before, there's a certain, I don't know, effort that goes into it, certain attention to detail that goes into it that also helps. So it gives you a unique perspective, if you will, a more inside perspective on things, so you can observe better and have a better idea of possibly where to look. Audi Eric. Hello, Eric. Do you plan on installing any kind of noise canceling system in your shop? I feel sorry for your ears when you use the impact gun or air hammer without wearing earplugs. Despite the fact that you should still wear earplugs protection, I think it would do wonders for your shop. I've been working at shops myself for the past, and I know what it's like. Happy New Year. Well, thank you for that. Okay, well, over in my storage shed next door, I have, probably over 1,000 egg cartons that I had planned on putting on the ceiling in here for a while to help eliminate the echo for just video production. Thing of it is that would be a massive undertaking, number one, and number two, a colossal waste of time, since I solved the problem with wireless microphones, which I'm wearing right now. Wireless microphones cut down on the echo considerably. As far as working in a shop, well, get used to it. That's what it's like. It's loud in a shop. Noise deadening material, no. I rent this place, I don't own it, number one. Secondly, it's 3,000 square feet. It just does not seem practical to do something like that, at least to me, it doesn't. So I can just as easily put in a set of earplugs like I did earlier today when I was using my air hammer. That's a video, I think I'm gonna fast track that one anyway. People have been asking for just regular repair videos, so I shot one today. And I used an air hammer and I used my earplugs. But truth be told, I'm deaf in my right ear anyway. So I'm not saying I need to make things worse, but after working as a mechanic for more than 20 years, I mean, noise is part of it. And it's, you know, some people are more sensitive to it, I get it. I am not. So therefore it's not a priority to me. But if it is for you, then hey, it's your shop, do your thing. My name is Hayden. That's easy enough. Hey Eric, love the content, by the way. I'm 18, kind of new to in-depth work on cars. I'm trying to swap my 1.6 1992 Miata, and I'm swapping the motor, ECU, and wiring harness from a 1.8 1996 Miata. Motor, ECU, and wiring harness are all in, and I'm having a no crank, no start issue. I have a new well-secured battery, new starter that works, tested it, a new ignition switch, and the starter is getting 12 volts. And the voltage drops when I turn the key. Do you have any idea what may be happening? I'm totally lost for ideas and would love any advice. Thanks, Eric. Well, congratulations. I mean, we need more of you, especially young you, getting involved in fixing your own cars. There seems to be less and less interest in that these days. I don't fault anybody for that, but it seems to be the case. Anyway, as far as what you're doing, you have no crank, no start. So it seems pretty basic. I mean, I can't tell you exactly what's wrong because you basically disconnected and reconnected every single thing in that vehicle, just about everything in the engine compartment, without a doubt. First thing I would do is see if the engine can move by hand. I mean, put a ratchet on the crankshaft and spin the crankshaft. If you can't spin it by hand, the starter sure can't. So, and I've run into this exact issue on the Dodge engine swap that I did. I got the engine all the way in the car, and then it was a salvage yard engine, and then I realized that the engine was seized up, and I had to take it all back out again and do it all over. So the lesson learned there is before you install an engine, make sure it spins. The other thing is, when you go to mate it up to the transmission or whatever, maybe something got into a bind, or maybe the starter itself isn't quite installed correctly, something of that nature. So, and you didn't mention whether or not you hear a click. You say you heard voltage drops, those kind of things, but you know, once again, go back and look at all your connections, especially your ground connections, because that is equally important as the power going to the starter itself. If you don't have a good ground connection going to the engine block, then it's not going to be able to turn the starter at all. Usually that's directly where the negative post goes. It goes someplace right down in the engine. So follow that cable, make sure all those connections are correct. In fact, that's mainly what I suggest you do is look around at all your connections and make sure they're good, especially the big cables, such as that ground cable I mentioned. It sounds like you've already explored what the positive cable going down to the starter. And then kind of go from there. That's about the best I can do for you at the moment. But definitely go back and check all your work and make sure it is correct. Jason Bird 0927. Hey Eric, after driving front-wheel drive cars for the past 3 years, I'm finally getting ready to buy my first rear-wheel drive car. A lot of people have encouraged me to go for a Honda S2000 because they've got plenty of power for such a lightweight car, reliable, and it's within my $20,000 budget. I did read that correctly. Okay, $20,000 budget. However, I'm a little worried about how notoriously twitchy the S2000s are and how they are known for being prone to snap oversteer. Do you think an S2000 would be a good choice for a beginner sports car? Also, what rear-wheel drive sports car would you buy if you had $20,000 to spare? Thanks in advance and stay dirty. Okay, these questions. Used car questions, what used car should I buy kind of things. It's always something I say, well, get it inspected and looked over first. As far as the snap oversteer thing with the S2000, depends on how you're driving it, depends on tires, depends on a lot of things. And I don't know. It's really a matter of personal taste. That's really what it boils down to. And a certain amount of oversteer is desirable to some people, and that's one of the reasons why they go for rear-wheel drive cars. So I don't know. I find a really difficult time answering questions like this because there are a lot of vehicles out there, a lot of good vehicles out there. But once again, it depends on how it's maintained. It depends on, how you're driving it, where you're driving it, that type of thing. I can say that if you're just driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour, you're not going to have snap oversteer, that kind of thing. I mean, if you're ripping down a country road way too fast, then you're going to find the limits of the vehicle. And I suggest you do that at the track before you go out and try to mess around on the road. In fact, you should probably leave that stuff at the track, if I'm honest. As far as what I'd do if I had an extra $20,000 sitting around, you're looking at it. That's what I want. I'm a built, not bought kind of guy. I like buying cars, and I can't really sit here and think of a brand new car that I want that I just have to have right now. I just can't. I really enjoy as of today, 10 cars that I have. It's a sickness. But yeah, I mean, all those things are really dependent on your driving habits, your tires, the type of vehicle, and all that stuff. So, I mean, I like Hondas. I never honestly liked the S2000. They took away my Del Sol. They took away my original NSX. They took away my Prelude, and they gave me an S2000. And I'm not saying it wasn't a good car, but it just left a bitter taste in my mouth. And driving it, I don't like cars with those long hoods like that as much. Although I do like a Nissan 240. I do like those. That was the first car I worked on as a professional mechanic. Also rear-wheel drive. So, that might be a choice. But those older ones, you're going to have some work to do. The best one I saw was the one that Sung Kang had at SEMA a couple of years back. He had one that he did that was just, Gretty did it. And Kenji Sumino put it together for him. And they did a beautiful job on that car. That car was just mint. I absolutely love that thing. But there's, like I said, there's a lot of choices out there. I'll jump to the next question. Try to keep this thing rolling. And wow, a lot of you have been posting. A lot of you have been posting. We started out with 2 pages and now we're up to 5. Oh, 4. All right, I'll try to get moving. The Bukes. Eric, Happy New Year. Hope all is well. We're all a bit over the 40 degrees Celsius temps in Australia for a bit, though. Yeah, I'm sure it's toasty down there. Looks like you're a busy man this year, but would really love to see that Fairmont going. But patience is a virtue, and to see that old 51 Chevy that your dad has going again, even if it's not so in-depth with videos, doing a project with your dad would be a project you'll never forget. The ultimate giving back project. Through watching your videos, I changed rotors and pads on the Holden Statesman just before Christmas in the heat, but managed to succeed all while having fun, staying safe, and getting dirty. Thanks a lot, Dave. So that was just really a thanks from Dave. So thank you, Dave, for that, and congratulations on your brake changes on your Holden Statesman. I got a Holden badge sitting over there somewhere that somebody sent me from down under, and I I have it with pride on my toolbox. So I'm very, very happy to hear that. Stay cool. I know it's going to be toasty for a little bit for you for a couple months yet. And where I am now, it's just the opposite. That whole planet thing. Anyway, moving on. And thanks again for that comment. I really appreciated it. PJ Stealth 20. I'm getting better at reading these names. I'm proud of myself. Hey Eric, love all of your videos. I've been going through some serious struggles on whether or not I should keep my vehicle. I have a 1992 Dodge Stealth RT Twin Turbo, aka Mitsubishi 3000 GT Twin Turbo. I've had it for a little over a year, but feel like it's becoming a lost cause. This is my dream car, which I spent 4 years saving up for, and I truly love it, but it's been giving me problems every month. Now 5 different shops technicians have told me that the motor is knocking, and it's almost impossible to find people in Malaysia that can work on these cars since they're so old, plus the fact that the parts for this car are almost impossible to find in Southeast Asia. I'm not really sure what I should do considering I've spent so much money on it already, and plus the fact that I still owe MRY 28,000, which is around 7,000 US. What do you do in this situation? Wow. Wow. You still owe $7,000 for the car, and they're telling you it's got a knocking engine, and you love the car and you can't find parts. Wow, that is a very tough spot to be in, if I'm honest. I mean, what I would do is I'd pull the engine. I mean, I got the stuff, but you're not me, and you obviously have other difficulties and things to overcome. I don't know. You know what I might do? I might just, first of all, I mean, you mentioned several people that gave you that assessment. And that would be the first thing, is I would want to make sure that my engine really did have a problem, a mechanical problem, and it wasn't something else. So the first thing I would do is everything possible to diagnose it as accurately as possible so that I was absolutely sure that the issue was something that involved an engine problem. So that would be job one. And once I figured that out, then I'd have to, this might be a situation where rebuilding might work in your favor because those parts are so difficult to find, but I mean, you're in Southeast Asia, so you're not that far from Japan where the car was born. So maybe you'd be able to source parts from there. I'm not sure, what the trade is like or expense or, it's gonna be expensive, I can tell you that right now, no matter what. And knowing what I know about those cars, those engines are shoehorned in there. The only way to really work on them, in my opinion, is to drop them out with a cradle and everything. Like just drop the whole front suspension, everything that holds the engine, all of it, just drop it all out. Don't try to work on it inside the car because it's nearly impossible. But if you don't have a lift and the other equipment for that becomes very difficult to do. Very difficult with, a couple of floor jacks. No, that would be, and like I said, I keep going back to, you asked me what I would do, but that's not really a fair question. As far as what you would do, all I can say is I feel for you, and I'm not really sure how to go about it other than make absolutely certain it's an engine problem before you commit to that. Maybe you can sell it if it's still running and get some of your money back and at least cover your losses. That's a tough one. I mean, and that might be the way to go in the end. And I hate to say that because I know you love the car, but if you're underwater in it already, it's only going to get deeper. So you're either going to have to commit or cut it loose, one of the two. I mean, that's all I can see. I mean, you explore all your options, look around, see if you can source parts, whatever, from other places. You might have to import them and, have to go through all that. But yeah, wow. I wish you luck. Todd, man. Happy New Year, Eric. Have you watched Star Wars Rogue One? If so, what do you think about it? P.S. It's my birthday on Monday. I can't wait for you to wish me a happy birthday. Let's start early. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. Yes, I did see Rogue One. And those of you that have watched my videos for any length of time have heard me do Star Wars references at least more than once. So yes, I am kind of a Star Wars nerd. I'm kind of a nerd in a lot of ways, if I'm honest. I did like it. I only saw it once, and when I watched Force Awakens, the first time I saw it, I loved it. But then I watched it a second time. I'm like, I don't know what I saw in this. I think that was all starry-eyed, and everything. I'm like, new Star Wars movie, so cool. But watching it the second time, I'm like, man, there's so many holes in this plot. A good movie starts with a good story. I mean, it starts with the writers. if you don't have a good story and it's not well written, then just give up now. And that's the way I feel about it, because the writing and the story is what carries everything. The special effects, all that stuff. I want to say that's easy, and that it's really easy to say that, but they are there to enhance the story. They're not there to make the movie. And so often I see movies that get made just for the sake of showing off the special effects capability, and there's no real substance. And I hate to say this, I hate to call them out, but the DC movies as compared to the Marvel movies is like no comparison, and it all comes down to story. Most recent example, come on, Batman versus Superman. Are you kidding me? Blah, blah. But Rogue One, I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I liked it a lot, and I think I'm going to like it again on the second viewing, if I'm honest. But yeah, that one really held together, and I like how it tied all into Episode 4. And you know, I would say, if you're asking me and you haven't seen the movie, I would say go see it. I would say it's worth the money. And the only time I go to the theater, well, when I go to the theater to watch movies these days, the only reason I go is to see it in 3D. So I can say it was really good in 3D, really enjoyed it. And you know, because I mean, with all the digital stuff that we can have at home now, why go to the movie theater and put up with all those people? I go really early in the morning. I try to pick movie theater times where nobody's there. So I go like the first showing in the morning. And I'm an early riser anyway. I'm up at like 5 every day. But I'm talking all about me. I need to answer your automotive questions because we got like half hour. Let's do this. Shut up, Eric. Answer my questions. Kenny562. Hey. Hi, Eric. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you too. I decided to pursue a career as an automotive/diesel technician. Just enrolled into Universal Technical Institute to study automotive diesel technology, and may even do infinity specified training once I complete the core classes. Can you talk, Eric? It's a $50,000 investment. What are your thoughts? Is it worth it? I love working on cars, but I also want to make a living working on them. Only considering diesel to try to work in a fleet service where I've been told the pay is better. I'm 26 years old and a recent college grad with debt of 10 grand. So you're gonna be 60 grand in the hole and still need to buy tools. Thanks for all the vids and best of luck with your Fairmont project this year. Can't wait to see it running, stay dirty. I can't wait either. Everybody wants to see this thing running, and so do I, but you know, we're down to the last 10, 20%, and that's always the hardest. It really is. I mean, putting big things in a car, that's one thing, but hooking it all up and making it all work together, that's where the real fun begins. So anyway, once again, enough about me. You know, it's funny, Kenny, that you just posted your question today, because I literally, not a few hours ago, shot an ETCG 1 video on what school should I go to that covers almost exactly what you're asking here. And the reason being is just this morning in my inbox, there was somebody asking me about school. And this is, to sum it up, I do recommend people that are considering getting into the repair field to at least consider diesel. And I say this because fleet diesel work is, in my opinion, a more lucrative prospect than working in automotive right now. Automotive, and this may not be as true anymore. I mean, I haven't been in the automotive field for a few years now, but from what I was seeing, it was in a period of reset. And what I mean when I say that is, for the amount of knowledge and effort and tools that you need to invest to be an effective automotive technician these days, and there are a lot of people that are effective out there that are doing just fine, but for the time and effort you put into it, I think the reason why not as many people are getting into it today is because an equal amount of effort can go into IT, and you could work inside in the air conditioning or a nice heated office rather than, you know, busting your butt and spending every dime you have on tools. Trucks outside. Spending every dime you have on tools. So that's the screwy part. That's the part, there's the rub that gets you. Also, working on cars for a living is not the same as tinkering around on the weekends. Tinkering around on the weekends, you know, you put your time in, you have your fun, and you know, you go about your business and your day to day, and you come back and get to it later. So you don't really get a chance to get tired of it. I can say from personal experience, and I started out like ready to go when I started out as an automotive technician. I threw myself into it. I was very enthusiastic. But I can say my job at the dealership was probably the thing that zapped my enthusiasm over time and sort of wore me down. and made me less and less interested in going to work every day. And for several years I started out, I absolutely loved it. And then the pay just leveled off. That was after about, I'd say, 6 years. So after being in it for about 6 years, I got to about as far as I was going to get with the pay. Now diesel, on the other hand, when you're talking about fleet shops and you're talking about diesel, I mean, there's a massive opportunity there. I mean, it's not just the trucks, it's also construction equipment, it's also ships. Think about this, everything in your life, I mean everything, the food you eat, the clothes on your back, your house, or wherever kind of dwelling that you're in, diesel got that there in one way or another. Like it was either on a ship or on a truck or something. So think about that. There's a massive industry out there, and it supply chain, logistics, all that stuff just seems to be growing. Automotive, at least to me, it seems like the industry is trying to make it so they don't need technicians anymore, and they just want parts changers. And I think that's kind of sad. And maybe I'm overreaching with that statement, but I really do feel that way. So anybody asking me going into auto repair, we need more good automotive technicians, without a doubt, because there seems to be less and less of them, and the ones that are out there, some are good, some are great. It's always been this way. Some are really great, and then there's a lot of crap in between. So there's probably about 20% out there of mechanics technicians that I would say that are truly competent and truly awesome. Then there's another 20% that's there that's competent and means well, and then the rest of them fall into another category, which is less than desirable. Let's just say that, and that's just my take on it. But I went off on your question for quite a bit there, but I feel it is an important one. And anytime somebody, like you, a young person, that's asking me about the industry and my opinions of it, I want to answer it honestly, because I'd hate for you to get into something and then not enjoy it. But truth be told, you're not me, so you can't say that your experience will mirror my experience or vice versa or any of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of variables that come into play. I'm just talking about my experience and the things that I've seen with the people I've worked with and for, and and looking through a lot of the comments of some of the videos that I've made about these discussions, and there's a lot of similarities there. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm saying that it's my opinion. But no matter what you decide, I wish you luck. Good luck with that debt, and also know that you're going to have tool debt as well that will never end. It's never going to end. Don't do that anymore, because that's an awesome place to be. It really is. Anyway, once again, I wish you luck, and Happy New Year. Non-linear. Are you ready to start thinking about the next meetup yet? We spoke at the 2016 one, and it sounded like you were considering having it at a larger site. Perhaps you can have a more general YouTuber car meetup so you don't have to be on stage all day. I am willing to volunteer time, both for the event itself and also for scouting locations, etc. I'm sure others are too. How can I help 2017 be a success? Dude, you're awesome. The fans of my show and the stuff that I do are just completely amazing people, and I feel so fortunate, because I'm always humbled when I hear things like this. To your question, I'm actually considering not having the meetup at the shop this year, and I've been considering that actually since last year. Last year we went to capacity. There was over 300 people here, and the shop was filled front to back, and there was literally standing room only. I wish I had a PA system, because I know the people in the back didn't hear me when I was doing giveaways or that kind of thing. And you're right. I mean, I was on stage all day. I mean, the way I see it, if you're going to make that time and effort to drive out to my shop to come and see me and everything, I'm going to do everything possible to try and meet you. The thing is, when there are 300 people all looking to do the same thing, and I have about 4 or 5 hours to do that in, it's nearly impossible. And I felt bad this year because I didn't get a chance to even go outside and see some of the cool cars that showed up in Fairmonts. There were a couple of those out there that I wished I would have gotten a chance to see. I feel like I missed out a lot this year. And that was because it was beyond capacity. It was, without a doubt, the most successful one. But once again, I feel like I missed out on meeting a lot of people during the course of the event. And I didn't want a repeat of that. And I'm concerned that this year it might be even bigger. So the thought that I'm having now is, rather than having one meetup here at the shop this year, is the thought that I've had is finishing the stupid car behind me and traveling around in it and having mini meetups around the country in different places. So I thought about doing that over having just one meetup here. In fact, last November, we did mini meetups in Los Angeles. We did 2 of them, one at the Peterson Museum and one at a place called Service and Supply, which was kind of a cool place. And it was me, it was Humble Mechanic, it was Chris Fix, it was Brian's Mobile One, also Matt from Busted Knuckles, Subaru WRX fan, Engineering Explained was, well, actually he wasn't there for that part of it. He showed up for the other part later. But we had like mini meetups, and the Peterson Museum one was fun because we had a car show and everything, and we actually got to do a little judging there, and that was put together by my friends at Garage Monkey, which honestly that was really cool. And seeing the Peterson Museum and all that stuff was also cool. It's a West Coast thing, so here I am in Ohio, and we got a chance to meet people out in Los Angeles that are fans of the show. So, and I've often heard from people, I wish you were closer, I wish you had the meetup closer, things like that. I'd go. So the thinking right now is, rather than having a meetup here at the shop, is to have one or have several meetups throughout the year, maybe 3 or 4 around the country, rather than just have one here at the shop. Just thinking out loud right now, but that's about as far as I got with it. But I'll keep you posted on that once I know more. In fact, getting this Fairmont finished is job 1. Then after that, I'm throwing myself into fixing it forward, which could take me in all kinds of directions. And I also have some other obligations this year that I have to consider as well. So there's a lot. It's going to be a busy year, and I'm just going to have to see where the chips fall. And once I get that sorted, then I'm going to turn my attention to what I'll do with the meetup. And I usually know by March. So that'll be my self-imposed deadline. So hopefully I'll know by then, and I'll make whatever announcements are necessary at that time. But thank you for your offer for help. Whipple Dodge 84 got a 99 Saab at 935 2.0 turbo while you were on vacation. But anyways, I've been having idle issues. It was idling high at first around 1400 to 1500 RPM, replaced all the vacuum lines. Now it idle a little better around 900 RPM. But now at a light, it drops out almost to stall, but catches itself most of the time. So it does stall once in a great while. Change the idle control valve on it to any ideas. Can you enlighten me on anything else that I might have missed? And I hope your vacation was relaxing and the holiday was good. Thank you for that. Okay, I can't say that I'm a Saab expert, but just on idle problems in general, I mean, you've seemed to have covered a lot of the bases. I mean, vacuum leaks are a good place to start. Any vacuum leaks can cause issues. If that vehicle has a mass airflow sensor, which I can't remember if it does or not, I think it might. You might want to clean it. You might also want to check for any holes in the tube that goes from the mass airflow sensor to the engine. That can upset the mixture and cause idle problems and also performance problems. Also check the throttle cable to make sure that that's not too tight, or any throttle adjustments. I know on Hondas there's an idle screw that people often adjust improperly, and as a result, if you actually fix the idle problem, it's never going to idle properly until you go back and do the factory idle reset procedure. So there's a lot that can get involved with that. There'll be a link in the description to the article I wrote about idle problems and how to go about solving them. I hope that may provide you with additional information that could be helpful. S-Node, yeah, Node ditch. Here I go. I was doing good. I was doing so good. Hey, Eric, my name is Joe. I can do Joe. I can do that name. I can read that one. Has a 2007 Dodge Caliber with 179,000 miles on it that throws codes P0340 and P0016. The OBD2 scanner also said said timing was 35 degrees off. Timing belt was done about 5,000 miles ago. Any advice? Plus my aunt replaced the cam sensor twice before I received the vehicle. What advice do you give me? P.S. Would any issue with the timing hinder the fuel economy? Thanks. All right, both of those codes, I looked them up, are for cam and crank sensors for that engine. And the fact that it says it's 35 degrees off and you've had a timing belt replaced in the past 5,000 miles, I'd be looking at those timing marks and making sure that that timing belt was installed correctly. Because if not, it's going to be the source of all those codes and the problems. And yes, it will cause fuel economy issues, because basically if your cam timing is not correct, your engine won't be able to breathe correctly. and it won't be very economical or perform very well. So I would be checking the mechanical timing of the engine, make sure that all those marks are exactly where they should be. Because if not, you got problems. Fix it and then see if all that stuff goes away. Rahuba1, can old motor transmission mounts be the cause of some shuddering during shifts accelerating? I get no rear vibrations on flat ground, but uphill the car tends to shudder a bit when touching the throttle and when shifting. Not sure if this is a transmission issue. The car also shakes a bit at start. It's a 2008 Saab 9.3 2.0. What is it with Saabs today? It's weird. It's like raining Saabs all of a sudden. All right. Anytime I have a vibration issue, something like that, the last place I go is to engine mounts. I always look for an engine performance problem first, and the kind of engine performance problem you're describing could be ignition related. Performance problems that happen under load, such as going uphill and accelerating and those types of things, usually ignition systems break down and fail under those conditions, and usually that's where I find a performance problem if that's the kind of performance problem I'm chasing down. So, do the usual stuff, check the plugs. Let's see, what year was that again? 2008, so it doesn't have wires, so could be a coil pack. I'd be checking your plugs. I'd be pulling the coil packs and looking at them and seeing if there's any arcing or something like that that's evident out of one of those. But that's where I'd be looking, as I'd be looking at the ignition system to start with. Also, if you have any check engine lights on, explore those and see what they can tell you. Linked in the description will be my article on solving performance problems that contains videos and additional information on how to solve things like that. But at the end of the day, yes, transmission mounts, engine mounts can accentuate vibrations, can make them worse. But once again, I always explore the engine problems first, and then the last thing I go to is those engine mounts. And if you've got like oil leaks or things like that, and you've got an engine mount that's covered with oil, it's pretty suspect that it could be a problem, because rubber and oil, oil tends to break down rubber, and it can ruin your mounts. But if you do have that situation, be sure to also address the oil leak in addition to the engine mount. I wish you luck in your repairs, my friend. Stay dirty. Mostar, Happy New Year, buddy. Hope you have a blessed year. Thank you. But anyways, is there any tricks to getting out stuck hoses that have been on for a while? My intercooler hose is stuck on pretty good. Never been taken off before. I often take intercooler hose is pretty big though. Ed China had I saw him use this the other day to do it. Normally what I do just with like coolant hoses and things like that is I'll take a pair of pliers like this and I'll just put it on there and slightly twist it, work it back and forth. You have to be careful on brass radiators and things, and also with plastic ones, because you can damage those hose connections by doing this. Intercooler connection though is much larger, and in that case, I was watching Ed China the other day, like I said, who's from Wheeler Dealers, who's honestly one of my personal heroes. And what he used is he had, I don't know if I've got one. I don't have a big one, but he had a bigger version of this, which is a hook. And it seemed to be very effective. In fact, I'm considering getting a larger one of these to use on hoses like what he did. But there's one there, and there's another one. And he had, like I said, it was a larger screwdriver version of this. And he just snuck in under the rubber and just sort of went around the circumference with it to break it loose. And it worked extremely well. So that's what I would suggest. Get one of those little hooks and see if you can sneak it under there, because an intercooler hose would probably be quite large. Give that a try. And Happy New Year to you too. SWR Nismo. Hey Eric, it's winter. Is it better to just wait 1 minute after starting your car, then drive off slowly, or should you let it warm up longer, like 5 to 10 minutes? I've heard it's bad to warm up your car at idle in cold weather because it takes a long time to get up to operating temp, and the gasoline strips the pistons of oil, causing unnecessary wear. Thanks and love your show. Interesting you post this question, because I might have seen the exact same article, which I briefly read through, and I would say there's some truth to that. But as far as letting your car warm up, I let mine warm up for me, not for the car. Because I park my car outside, the wife gets to park in the garage. park my cars outside, and in the wintertime they get covered with ice and snow and things like that, and I need to get rid of that stuff. Well, in my experience, which is extensive, I was born in Western New York, with snow and ice, is you just crank up the defroster on the front and back, and let it eat away at some of the ice and chip away with your ice brush while the thing is running. And I haven't had an issue doing that. Especially on like modern vehicles that have air fuel sensors and not O2 sensors, they come up to closed loop way quicker than just a straight O2 sensor car. So if your car is like, say, let's see, air fuel sensors, I would say 2006 and up easily. I mean, there were around before there, but 2006 and up especially, I don't think it's really a concern, because I mean they're on the mixture, not so much that it's running so rich. What they're talking about is, as you start the car up, it adds more fuel because it's cold. As the engine warms up to operating temperature, it's more efficient and doesn't require as much fuel to run. But when it's cold, you add more fuel so that you can keep the engine running, so you can get it started, because a cold engine is not as efficient. And as a result, more fuel is added to the cylinder. And the concern here that was pointed out in that article, or at least the article I think it was that extra fuel would wash down the cylinder walls, and therefore the pistons wouldn't have proper lubrication during warm-up. And, I would say that's more true with older carbureted cars, weirdly enough, than it would be with, especially with one with a choke that wasn't set up properly, but less so with modern fuel injection, especially modern fuel injection. Like I said, they're coming up to closed loop, which is, directly monitored fuel delivery to the engine much quicker, like way quicker. So I say it's a personal preference. I don't think you're going to kill your engine by letting it warm up for 5 minutes. But then again, the other part of it is, fuel injection being what it is, it's very accurate at fuel delivery. So in other words, you can, if you can see, out your windows, jump in your car on a cold day, start it up and drive away. It's not like a carbureted car where you might want to let it warm up for a minute, because carburetors are a little temperamental in colder weather like that, or at least from my experience they are. So yeah. I read that article and I thought, I don't quite agree with it. I see where they're going, I see their concerns, but warming up your car in the winter, I don't think is a bad thing. I do it all the time, and my cars run fine for years and years. Best thing you can do is change your oil on a regular basis. Oh geez, it's almost 8 o'clock, so I'm going to jump to the last page and start getting some of the people who just recently posted questions. Went through the first 2 pages. Here's a hint: if you're going to get on one of these shows, post your questions early, because I usually go through the first 2 pages because I pre-read that stuff in case there's something I need to look up or whatever. Yeah, the later you post, the less likely it is that I'll be able to get to your question. But I try to do these every other week. So I've just been off, like I said, for the holidays and such. All right. So God knows. Eric, so I have a transmission shudder. Awesome. Drive a 2003 Mercedes C240 that has about 130,000 miles, and the shudder occurs between 20 and 30 miles per hour. I was wondering how I should go about dealing with this. Should I go for a complete rebuild, partial rebuild, etc.? What do you think would be the best bet for my money? Thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. It's a fantastic question, if I'm honest. This is what I would suggest that you do. I would suggest that you take the vehicle to a transmission specialist, preferably one that specializes in German transmissions, such as the one that you have in that vehicle. And I say this because, automatic transmissions are complicated enough. It's like brain surgery, really, in the automotive world. So, you could liken those people to brain surgeons or open heart surgeons or things like that, the people that rebuild automatic transmissions. There is no system on your vehicle that is more complicated mechanically and electronically, well, especially mechanically, than the automatic transmission, bar none. There's no other system that's that complex. And knowing all those little nuances and things is important, because in the case of your transmission, there may be like a solenoid that's hanging up, or it may be that you have a certain clutch failure, or it could be any number of things that somebody who is well versed in your transmission would be able to diagnose. So in other words, spend money on a quality technician that knows what they're doing with that transmission. That's what I would do. And have it professionally diagnosed. Have them tell you what their opinion is and what their experience is. Because me, I can honestly say I don't have hardly any experience with those transmissions. Got plenty of automatic transmission experience, and mostly that's like, okay, it's bad, let's swap it out for another one. And I've been successful with that, because that puts it in the hands of the professionals. That puts it in the hands of people that have the equipment. And what I'm speaking of specifically here is a transmission dynamometer, so that when they're done rebuilding the transmission, before they ever put it in the car, they run it on a dynamometer to make sure that it can shift through all its gears and everything properly before they ever put it in the car. Those are the pros. Those are the people you want to deal with if you're doing any kind of automatic transmission work. Otherwise, just get rebuilt, certified kind of stuff, because they already did all that stuff. That's what I'd recommend. So as far as rebuilds and things like that, I would leave that up to somebody who's an expert in those transmissions. That's what I would do with that. I'm going to answer one more question. We'll go to the very, very last page, and we'll wrap this one up. Because this went from 2 pages at the start of the show to 6. This is how popular these are getting. And I've been sitting here for an hour, and I tried not to run long. I tried really hard. All right, how about VAMC? Hello, Eric. My 2000 Accord automatic transmission L4 was started to jerk while engaging to D4, i.e. between 55 and 60. It is a problem with transmission wearing out. By the way, it has 184,000. Is it worth replacing transmission JDM, selling these transmissions for 300 to 400? Thank you. All right, if I hear your question correctly, and it sounds like you've got the 4-cylinder. Now the 6-cylinder 2000 Accord, I would just say right out, you probably got a bad transmission. The 6-cylinder transmissions that Honda was putting out around 2000, garbage. You know, and the TLs and CLs and Honda Odysseys, blah, blah, crap. MDXs, all of it, garbage. But as far as the 4-cylinder transmissions, they didn't have the same kind of problems. Therefore, what I'd recommend in your case, and it's a 2000, I might be looking salvage. That could be a good, less expensive alternative than purchasing a rebuilt transmission for that vehicle. So that's the direction I might go. But once again, this could be an electronic issue. This could be a solenoid issue. It may not be the transmission at all. It could be something electronically going on. So once again, strongly recommend you take it to somebody who knows Honda transmissions and can properly diagnose it for you. A couple of other things about Honda transmissions. You're not supposed to check the fluid level with the engine running. Never. It's with the vehicle on a level surface and with the engine off and hot. So in other words, bring it up to operating temperature, turn it off, then pull the dipstick and check the transmission fluid level. Do not check it while it's running. Can I say this again? Do not check Honda transmission fluid while the engine is running. Don't do it. Second thing is never put anything but Honda automatic transmission fluid in your Honda transmission. That will keep you from having problems. I've actually seen harsh shifting and other issues by putting other fluids, such as just straight up Dextron, in a Honda transmission. They spend a lot of time and effort to make whatever fluid that they put in there some weird synthetic whatever that's just got magic elven powers to it or whatever. But the point is, you put anything but Honda automatic transmission fluid in a Honda automatic transmission, you're asking for trouble. That's been my experience over and over again. Keep it in Honda transmission fluid that lasts just about forever. So there is that. With that, I am going to wrap things up. It has been fun. We've been at this for an hour. Do you believe it? Yeah, an hour, actually a little more than an hour. Hour and 25 seconds, according to this. But that being said, I want to first thank you for watching. Once again, wish you a happy new year. Once again, remind you that if you are watching this on YouTube, I cannot see the questions, so I apologize for not answering those. But I will be back again in 2 weeks, which I think is January 18th. So 2 weeks, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. is when I do these. And I am scheduled to come back again in 2 weeks to this very spot to once again answer your automotive questions and also some AMA stuff like we did tonight. Links in the description to videos and stuff like that I mentioned to try to make it easy. Also that FAQ section. Also EricTheCarGuy.com, which is where I ask you to go if you have automotive questions that I was not able to cover in this show. Aside from that, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can connect with me all social like. And once again, thank you for watching and happy 2017. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. See you in a couple of weeks.